While this might sound like an exaggeration, June 2023 may have been the beginning of one of the most significant moments in human history. The following is a true story about the highest-ranking U.S. government official to emerge from the shadows as a whistleblower with information about the existence of alien life here on Earth. His claim is incredible and at first glance, unbelievable. A 90-year-old cover-up involving secret government crash retrieval programs. But who is this man? And is he as credible as everyone is saying? Well, he appears to be the most credible source to ever make claims of this nature. His role in government as a senior intelligence officer was so prestigious that he was directly involved with daily briefings for the President of the United States. His name is David Grusch, and he has put his life and career on the line in order to reveal secrets that lie in the darkest corners of the highest echelons of government. What's more is that these secrets seem to finally answer one of the most reality-shattering questions humanity has ever had to ask itself. Are we alone?
In the depths of the unknown lies the canvas upon which our souls paint the masterpiece of enlightenment, where the brushstrokes of curiosity and the colors of uncertainty converge to reveal the profound tapestry of existence.
Before we consider the bombshell claims David Grusch recently dropped, it's important to mention another individual who shares a similar story in order to understand why this most recent disclosure effort is different to the ones that came before. During the tail end of the last century, a man shrouded in mystery stepped out into the public sphere and made shocking claims about a top-secret government program. Bob Lazar, a physicist, claims to have been hired in order to work in a secret facility near Area 51 during the 1980s. According to his story, he was among other physicists who had been tasked with backwards engineering alien spacecraft that had been retrieved by the U.S. government.
This came from somewhere else. I mean, as bizarre as that is to believe, but I mean, it's there. I saw it. I know what the current state of the art is in physics, and it can't be done.
Lazar asserts that he encountered and worked on 9 flying saucers of extraterrestrial origin. He provides intricate descriptions of the craft's propulsion systems, which utilized an element called Element 115, unknown to the public at the time. Element 115 has since been discovered. Here's where things get really strange. Element 115 is not a naturally occurring element. In fact, it can only be generated by creating atomic collisions. This was discovered and achieved successfully, for the first time, in 2013, 24 years after Bob Lazar encountered the element while purportedly backwards engineering an alien craft. So, despite being a polarizing figure who had made some contradicting or unfounded claims, the Element 115 aspect of his story bears heavy weight in his favor. But to many, there has always been a cloud over the Bob Lazar story. His credibility. There are some details that don't quite add up in relation to his academic history. However, Lazar's explanation for this is that his records have been wiped in order to unperson him. This may be true, but there's no way to prove it for that very reason. Because there's barely any trace of this man on paper, anywhere. But it's on this issue of credibility in which this modern-day whistleblower can't as easily be called into question. What you are about to hear is absolutely earth-shattering. Unlike Bob Lazar, Grusch did not witness any alien spacecraft in person, but what he is stating in his own words as one of the highest-ranking officers in the U.S. military are confirmations of secret branches within the U.S. government who are in possession of spacecraft that are not from planet Earth. Not only that, Grusch, while revealing that the government does indeed have craft, proclaims something even more incredible than that. He flat out admits that the U.S. government are also in possession of alien bodies.
An Air Force veteran and former high-ranking intelligence official is blowing the whistle on an alleged UFO retrieval program.
The House of Representatives is expected to hold a hearing on whistleblower David Grusch's claims that the United States government has several intact and partially intact vehicles of non-human origin.
Here at the Debrief is an unbelievable story about UFO retrievals, and an intelligence official whistleblower has come forward and admitted that the U.S. has, in fact, crashed non-human UFO vehicles, and they're reverse engineering them. This is an unbelievable story, but to hear it on the record from an intelligence source who has the highest possible level of U.S. government clearance, highest possible.
On June 5th, 2023, American news outlet The Debrief releases the story containing David Grusch's bombshell claims. June 11th, News Nation releases a sit-down interview with him, where he goes into detail about what he has learned about the secrets kept in the darkest corners of the U.S. government.
Welcome. Have a seat. Maybe start off telling me your name and who you are.
My name is David Grusch. You know, I came from a blue-collar family in Pittsburgh. I didn't have the money for college. Always admired people in uniform. And I've always wanted to be a part of something bigger than myself. You know, 18 years ago, I got an Air Force scholarship for physics. I originally commissioned on active duty in the Air Force, served 14 years in the Air Force.
I look at this photograph, Dave, and I see a very proud officer.
I was getting promoted to captain when I was deployed.
And you still love your country, don't you?
Absolutely.
A career intelligence officer, Grusch spent time in Afghanistan and other places he can't mention before rotating back to Washington.
I was an intel officer for the U.S. for 14 years. My last position, which I left in April of 2023, I co-led the UAP portfolio for the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency, and some of the highest officials within the Department of Defense and Intelligence community used to call on me to advise them on some of the hardest target sets that the country had.
You are one of the most trusted former intelligence officials in the U.S. defense and intelligence establishment.
Yes, I was.
You were trusted with the most intimate secrets.
Yes.
Grusch claims that the most significant of these secrets were revealed to him in 2019, when he was invited to join the UAP task force.
You had the security classifications to go anywhere and ask anyone anything.
I had, based on my formal security clearance and multiple polygraphs, I had the ability to be read into any program that I needed. At one point in time, I was extremely highly cleared.
What conclusion did you come to at the end of your time on the UAP task force?
The UAP task force was refused access to a broad crash retrieval program.
When you say crash retrieval, what do you mean?
These are retrieving non-human, exotic origin vehicles that have either landed or crashed.
In that moment we just witnessed, David Grusch made history by admitting to the public that an intelligent non-human species exists. Furthermore, he goes on to elaborate that, whoever they are, they're operating spacecraft, or at the very least aircraft, in our skies.
You are alleging that the U.S. government has been concealing the existence on this planet of alien life.
Grusch is claiming that the government is in possession of alien craft. This sounds incredible. But let's remember that this is just one step beyond what was admitted by the Pentagon after the release of these videos by the New York Times in 2017. The Pentagon confirmed the validity of these UFO videos captured by the U.S. military. They declared these videos to be legitimate, untampered with, and mysterious to a degree that they could not identify what the objects captured on camera were.
There's a whole fleet of them. Look on the SA. Oh my gosh. They're all going against the wind. The wind's 120 knots from the west. Look at that thing, dude. That's not our LNS though, is it? It's not. That is an LNS, dude. Well, if there's a... Look at that thing.
rotating. Moving target? No, I took an auto track. Oh, okay. Oh my gosh, dude. Wow, look at it fly.
The official release of these videos in 2017 rewrote the rules of the UFO phenomenon. The Pentagon were reluctantly forced to admit they were real. And from that moment on, the curtain seems to be peeling ever so slowly toward a disturbing new reality. They're real. And they're here. If David Grusch is found to be intentionally lying or providing false information, there could be devastating legal consequences. If Grusch's claims were made with the intention to defraud the government, he could potentially face liability under the False Claims Act. This means the government could take legal action against him for knowingly submitting false or fraudulent claims for personal benefits. He could also face charges of perjury with penalties including potential imprisonment. He has been thoroughly vetted, meaning he is who he says he is. He had virtually the highest level of clearance a senior intelligence officer can have. In the sit-down interview on News Nation, Grusch alludes to knowing individuals within the UFO crash retrieval program that he was denied access to. But the rabbit hole goes far deeper than that. Grusch doesn't appear to be a victim of an out-of-hand rumor swirling around the halls of the Pentagon. And the reason we know this is an alarming detail that elevates this situation to the next level. David Grusch has admitted to witnessing government documents containing these shocking revelations.
I have plenty of current and former senior intelligence officers that came to me, many of which I knew almost my whole career, that confided in me they were a part of a program. They named the program. I've never heard of it. And they told me, based on their oral testimony, and they provided me documents and other proof, that there was, in fact, a program that the UAP task force was not read into.
You are alleging that the U.S. government has been concealing the existence on this planet of alien life.
What you're seeing on screen here are some of the most historically famous images of unexplained objects in the sky, sometimes referred to as UAP, but more commonly known and referred to as UFOs. It begs the question, could these photos be a window into exactly what the U.S. government is in possession of?
I speak for everybody sitting at home. That is a shock.
It was to me, and I had a lot of sleepless nights.
Critics question how the whistleblower was cleared to disclose classified information of this nature. Why, for example, is he not receiving the same treatment as Edward Snowden or Julian Assange, who were both virtually exiled from the United States due to their whistleblowing? The counter-argument here seems to be that the alleged illegal activities would have been unknown to the Pentagon's censors. And shockingly, a defense bill signed by President Biden includes something mysteriously specific. The defense bill states that there are whistleblower protections for individuals with knowledge of UFO programs engaged in certain activities. As expressed, this is eerily specific language approved by the presidential cabinet. Even so, the response from science and academia to his claims has been mixed. Joshua Semeter, a member of NASA's UAP Independent Study Team, treats Grusch as a credible witness, but emphasizes the lack of data or material evidence. But they seem to be missing the point of Grusch's actions here. He didn't step forward as a whistleblower in possession of hard scientific evidence. To put a finer point on it, David Grusch encountered evidence of a dark program. He was shown evidence of this program's existence and shown documentation from within said program. That documentation may have included images, that's certainly possible, or these could simply be text-based documents stating the intention or purpose of the program. The fact of the matter is this: David Grusch discovered the program and has since reported the following. It's a dark program hidden from Congress, hidden even from the majority of the brass at the Pentagon. It's beyond top secret. It has a name that he cannot share with us right now, and most shockingly of all, It's a program in possession of spacecraft from an alien species. But there's more jaw-dropping claims still to come. There are other alleged high-ranking intelligence officers who have been in contact with respected journalists who are confirming what David Grusch is saying to be true. His story is being corroborated by officials who potentially belong within the very program he's blowing the whistle on. But who are these journalists who are in secret communication with these future whistleblowers? Michael Schellenberger is one among these journalists, the founder of Environmental Progress. He holds his master's degree in anthropology and has steadily rose to a juggernaut status as a journalist, mainly due to his involvement in the Twitter files. This is worth mentioning as his reporting of government corruption, coercion, and overreach separates him from the claim that David Grusch is part of some kind of government psyop or disinformation campaign. Schellenberger, with the help of Elon Musk, essentially caught the U.S. government with their pants down upon the release of the Twitter files. In short, his style of journalism shines a spotlight on government secrecy, which makes what he has to say about the Grusch situation very interesting.
Michael, I want to bring you in. You've said publicly just this week that you have heard from sources who also back up what Grusch has said. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, that's right. And I've spoken to multiple other people with high levels of security clearance who confirm the basic claim that Grusch is making, which is that the U.S. government is in possession of over 12 non-human craft. I'm reporting what I was told by people with a lot of credibility that are in a position to know and that are very sane and so respected that they have achieved high levels of security clearance.
You know, I like you, I'm just sick and tired of all the stories and secrecy and classified, can't tell you this, that. It's like, come on. Just, I mean, any of the people you talked to, did any of them say, I myself saw it, or were they all, I know somebody that saw the craft or whatever?
No, there were people that had seen them.
Okay.
And I think I hope that some of them will
that's big.
Speak.
That's big. That's
There's
huge.
a chance that some of them will speak publicly.
It's becoming increasingly clear. David Grusch is not alone. There are others just like him waiting in the shadows. Grusch may be the tip of the spear, and those who will follow in his footsteps may not only serve to validate his claims, but expand upon them. Sometime soon, whenever the next whistleblower steps forward, what more will they tell us? For now, we have a lot to contemplate with regard to what Grusch is telling us. Admittedly, a lot of what he says is fascinating and exciting, but much of it is also quite alarming, if not outright terrifying.
You've said that the United States has spacecraft, intact craft.
We do.
Do we have bodies? Do we have species of
Well,
non-human?
naturally, when you recover something that's either landed or crashed, sometimes you encounter dead pilots. And believe it or not, as fantastical as that sounds, it's true.
Admittedly, a lot of this is tough to digest. Grusch tells us that alien pilots may have been among the retrieved crafts. As if that's not mind-bending enough, when asked about where they might have come from, Grusch implies that they may be extra-dimensional beings, as opposed to extraterrestrial.
It is a well-established fact, at least mathematically and based on empirical observation and analysis, that there most likely are physical additional spatial dimensions. You could imagine in 4 and 5D space where what we experience as linear time ends up being a physical dimension in higher dimensional space, where if you were living there, you could translate across what we perceive as a linear flow. So there is a possibility that, and this is a theory here, I'm not saying this is 100% the case, but it could be that this is not necessarily extraterrestrial, and it's actually coming from a higher dimensional physical space that might be co-located, right here.
Additionally, Grusch implies that what he has heard or been briefed on from within the program implies that this non-human intelligence isn't necessarily always friendly.
I've been told that there have been attempts to bring down craft, that we've acted offensively against non-human craft.
There have been instances, and there are certain techniques.
Have human beings been hurt or killed by a non-human intelligence?
While I can't get into the specifics because that would reveal certain U.S. classified operations, I was briefed by a few individuals on the program that there were malevolent events like that.
People have just heard you say non-humans may well have murdered human beings.
That seems to be the case at one point, yeah.
Finally, Grusch heavily suggests that the U.S. are among other superpowers who also have their own UFO retrieval programs and are likely in possession of similar alien technology or biological units. He states that there is something of a Cold War happening in the shadows between America's rival countries, and that there's a race to understand and emulate these otherworldly technologies. What's more, Grusch tells us that the contemporary UFO phenomenon all began at an earlier point in modern history than most suspected. Apparently, the first crash retrieval of its kind was performed by a government under none other than Italian dictator Benito Mussolini.
You say it's a 90-year cover-up?
Just about, yeah.
90 years?
1933 was the first recovery in Europe, in Magenta, Italy. They recovered a partially intact vehicle.
While it might sound outlandish on the surface, this surprisingly lines up with historic records. Mussolini's regime had actually documented numerous UFOs during this time. There are even real traces of this documentation. What you're seeing on screen is an internal memo created by the Italian Secret Services. Note the crude UFO drawing featured at the bottom of the document.
It's true, it's real.
Yeah, that actually happened. The Italian government moved it to a secure air base in Italy for the rest of kind of the fascist regime until 1944, 1945, and the Pope Pius XII back-channeled that.
So the Vatican was involved?
Yeah, and told the Americans what the Italians had, and we ended up scooping it.
The involvement of the Vatican seems like something straight out of a Dan Brown book. Yet here we are. The Vatican may have known about our otherworldly visitors for almost a century. This could be the reason behind the Vatican's peculiar change in tone towards the existence of alien life. It's possible that they knew that disclosure would surface in the coming decades, and so they began to acknowledge our alien brothers, as the Vatican astronomer puts it.
So the reason for the secrecy exactly is what?
Feudalistic dominance, who can have both asymmetric technology for, it seems like, just fueling the war machine.
Grusch says that the U.S. government has been covering up encounters with non-human intelligence on American soil since Roswell, 1947. 20 years after Roswell, there was the infamous incident above a nuclear weapons silo at Malmstrom Air Base. Based on the numerous sightings and reports of UFOs over nuclear silos, it appears that these aliens, or NHI, seem to have a keen interest in our nuclear capabilities.
They saw a craft, appearing to be intelligently controlled, hovered over a nuclear weapons silo and shut down 10 nuclear ICBM missiles.
Mm-hmm. It certainly looks like they want to understand how far we've advanced in our nuclear fissile kind of technologies at the very least.
Could this incident have influenced the 1971 agreement between the United States and the USSR? Article 3 of this document candidly mentions UFOs interfering and/or communicating with either nation's nuclear facilities, which is precisely what was reported to have happened above Malmstrom Air Force Base decades earlier. It has long been suspected that if alien life was indeed visiting Earth, that their interest in our nuclear technology might be an indication of their desire to protect us from ourselves. To them, we may seem like a toddler who has learned to light a flame of a matchstick. Or perhaps that's simply wishful thinking. Could their intent really be malevolent? Either way, if the U.S. government knows, then we most certainly have the right to know too. The very essence of these these possible revelations begs a fundamental question. Who owns the secrets of the universe? Are they the possession of a select few, hidden behind bureaucratic walls? Or do they belong to all of us to be explored, pondered, and embraced as a collective? There have been many important moments and people that have propelled the push for disclosure long before David Grusch stepped out of the dark and into the fray, by way of coming together over social media, conventions, writing books, hosting radio shows.
The phones lit up, the world changed, my boss turned color, and I kept going.
And creating documentaries. Dare to ask questions, because it's that daring nature that has always been the very thing that has forged the destiny of our species.